Hey there, time travelers! Ready for another nostalgia trip back to the past? Hop in, because in today's video, we're traveling back to a time when we all wished we had a flying Nimbus to take us far away. Today, we're going to be taking a look at 12 long-standing Dragon Ball Z fan theories that were actually confirmed by the creator of the show, Akira Toriyama. Be sure to stick around to the end of the video to find out who the strongest human in the series is. I promise you will be surprised. First up, let's address a long-standing argument among viewers of the show. One of the great debates among Dragon Ball fans is where the movies fit in canonically to the show's story. While a few believe that they fit perfectly, most fans disagreed. They believe that, like most other anime, the movies take place in their own universe that is not canon to the actual show's storyline. This appeared to be proven true when Dragon Ball Super began to air, and the first two arcs of the series were actually the two final films in the Dragon Ball Z world. Now they would only rewrite those movies into episodes if the movies themselves weren't meant to be canon at first, especially proving that Dragon Ball Z movies follow the trend that most anime tend to follow, which is to create amazing movies that work as standalone films. That way, almost anyone can try to enjoy them. Bulma's troubled life doesn't begin or end there, however. Have you ever noticed her mother, Mrs. Briefs, and how even though everyone else in the show seems to age properly, she never ages at all? I mean, when we first see her, I'm pretty sure she was supposed to be like 65 years old, but somehow she looked just a little bit older than her daughter Bulma, who is much younger. This has led fans to theorize that Mrs. Briefs is actually an android, and believe it or not, this theory is very supported. Not only do we know that androids are capable of having children, but all we have to do is also look at Krillin and his daughter Marin, whom he had with Android 18. And we also know that the Red Ribbon Corp only went out of business because Capsule Corp, which is owned by Bulma's family, created tech that could compete with theirs and eventually surpass it. This indicates that Capsule Corp would be more than capable of producing an android with motherly intentions who would end up becoming the Mrs. Briefs that we all met and were slightly confused by. Next, we have an interesting theory turned fact about the Saiyan race as a whole. Throughout the series, the Saiyan race is portrayed as a sort of space Viking warrior race of people who constantly embrace domination and never shy away from conflict. However, do you remember how big of a deal it was when Goku achieved Super Saiyan for the first time? It was apparently so rare that the idea of a Super Saiyan became a legend among the race. Well, this was because the Saiyans never really had to push themselves past their limits. It turns out that for a Saiyan, elevating their power level wouldn't have been too difficult, but because they were already so much stronger than all of their foes, they never actually had to exert that much energy. Goku only had to because he didn't have an army of warriors to back him up against some of the world's toughest foes. Up next, we have a theory about Goku's firstborn child, Gohan. Many fans know that Dragon Ball was the original anime that depicted the life of Goku as a child and his journey toward adulthood. Well, many have speculated that Dragon Ball Z was supposed to be a similar tale with his son Gohan becoming the main protagonist as we watch him turn into one of the most powerful beings in the universe. Think about how much focus they put on Gohan from the beginning. He is the one who essentially beat Raditz in the first arc. He then goes on to train with Piccolo and learns to handle himself while facing the world's strongest enemies, whether they be other Saiyans or aliens from other worlds. In the Buu saga especially, Gohan really comes into his own, and I can certainly see how Toriyama would have originally designed him as the main character for Dragon Ball Z, but just couldn't tear himself away from Goku. Alright, this time we want you to think about a few of the toughest and most intense foes that Goku and his team have ever had to face and how young a lot of them are. I mean, one of the biggest terrors of the planet was Kid Buu. Now I want you to take a look at Frieza and the playful mannerisms that he displayed during all of his battles, almost as if he was toying with his prey. Well, what if this is because, much like Kid Buu, Frieza was also a child, at least in the terms of his species? On top of that, while it's not explained exactly how old King Cold and Cooler were, it stands to reason that if Cooler was a young adult, Frieza was most likely still a child or teen, which as we said is very fitting for the way that Frieza acts. Now we mentioned earlier that Gohan progressed very quickly in Dragon Ball Z, and when you look at the other Saiyan children, you will notice that the same can be said for them as well. This makes many fans believe that a Saiyan whose genes have been diluted by other genes, such as Gohan, Trunks, and Goten, who all have human mothers, somehow end up being stronger than pure-blooded Saiyans. This also explains why the further down the generational line, the faster the person seems to be able to progress. Gohan learned to hit Super Saiyan and Super Saiyan 2 at a way younger age than his father did, and the Goten managed to learn it even younger than that. This theory was eventually confirmed in the Dragon Ball Z manga when it mentioned that half-Saiyans were stronger than full-blooded Saiyans. Here we have one of the biggest questions to make its way out of the Frieza saga. How is it possible that Frieza told Goku that they had a mere 5 minutes before the planet Namek exploded, but then he and the Saiyan proceeded to have a fight that spans the course of 9 episodes on the surface surface of the planet without it exploding. It's something that no one could explain for the longest time, but now seems rather obvious. Think about the speed at which all of the characters in the show are able to move, especially when they are at the peak of their power levels toward the end of each arc. Now think about how slow the rest of the world would seem to them. In other words, the fight between Goku might have seemed like an hour or more of straight combat, But that's because we were seeing it in slow motion so that the animators could capture what was actually going on in the brawl. Up next, we have some very sorry news for Vegeta fans. Let's be honest, Vegeta has one of the best arcs out of any secondary character in any anime, and this means that there are a lot of fans who are just waiting for that day that he finally becomes stronger than his rival, Goku. Sadly, while the Prince of Saiyans often gets his moment in the spotlight and often helps to turn the tide of battle, he will never become stronger than Goku. This is mainly because of how much Toriyama, the creator of the Dragon Ball world, loves Goku. He claims to see the Saiyan as a symbol of hope, and at the end of the day, just doesn't care much for Vegeta. So while Vegeta can and always will be a great rival and counter for Goku, there will never be a moment where Vegeta usurps Goku as the strongest member of the Z Fighters. Vegeta wasn't the only one to get the rough story though. As a matter of fact, those who watched the original Dragon Ball will remember that Vegeta's eventual wife, Bulma, spent a lot of time trying to find happiness. In fact, in Dragon Ball, she almost constantly brings up the fact that she wants to find love and would even use the Dragon Balls to wish for a boyfriend. Well, it turns out that in between the time that Dragon Ball ended and Dragon Ball Z began, after the multiple-year time jumps, it's believed that Bulma managed to use her company and tech to gather all of the Dragon Balls and actually make her wish. And then that wish is what brought Vegeta to their planet and kick off the iconic Saiyan saga. I mean, we know that Shinron works in mysterious ways after all, and that fate has a funny way of working out, especially for Bulma. Next up, we have a theory about another android that proved to be true. During the Cell Saga, which is a fan-favorite story arc, Dr. Gero's androids were introduced but are quickly thrown into the background as a threat as soon as Cell actually comes in. When Cell began roaming the Earth, he already knew that he was hunting down androids 17 and 18. He was well aware of their existence. But what puzzled fans were why Cell didn't seem to have any knowledge about android 16's existence. This turns out to be an advantage against Cell, but always seemed like a bit of a plot hole. That is until it was confirmed that Dr. Gero intentionally hid information about Android 16 from the alien known as Cell in order to protect his favorite android. This brings us to our next theory, which concerned itself with wondering why Android 16 seemed to be so different from 17 and 18, and also explains why Gero would go through such great lengths to protect the android from Cell. Throughout the Cell Saga, Android 16 is shown to be more of a pacifist than the other androids and is much calmer. Well, Akira Toriyama confirmed that this is because Android 16 was made in the image of Dr. Gero's biological son. You see, his son fought for the Red Ribbon Army, and in doing so ended up losing his life. Then, while in mourning, Dr. Gero did everything he could to give his son a second life through the use of one of his lifelike androids. He wasn't built to be a war machine or a weapon to be used for destruction like Android 17 and 18. It makes Android 16's sacrifice that much more of a tearjerker. Last but not least, we have one of the most controversial truths among all Dragon Ball Z fans, and that's the fact that Krillin is the strongest human in the anime. Wow, there's a sentence I never thought I would say. I mean, not to be a hater or anything, but when I think of Krillin, I think of the character that typically gets pummeled by the villain of the arc. However, the more I think about it, the more I can see that this is true for every human in the show. There are very few moments in Dragon Ball Z where a human is able to keep up with the big bad or their Saiyan companions. But out of all of the humans, oddly enough, it seems like Krillin could hold up the best. Think about how all of the characters were toward the end of Dragon Ball Z, and even in Dragon Ball Super to an extent. Tien has practically disappeared from the battlefield to dedicate his life to training and meditation. Yamcha, though he proved himself to be useful toward the end of the series, certainly can't match up with anyone under serious circumstances. But Krillin, on the other hand, still had a lot of fighting spirit toward the end of Dragon Ball Z. And then in Super, he sort of proved himself as the strongest human by going farther in the Tournament of Power than any of the other humans, even after a decent amount of time being retired from the battlefield. I love it when fan theories are confirmed, especially when it helps to add more depth to a series that already runs so deep with lore and storylines. I know my mind was blown when I realized that Gohan was originally supposed to be the main protagonist of Dragon Ball Z, but it really makes so much sense the more I think about it. What was your favorite fan theory from today's video? Be sure to let us know in the comments below. We love to hear from you all. That's all for today. Remember, if you enjoyed today's nostalgic conspiracy, be sure to like the video and subscribe to our channel to make sure you don't miss the chance to travel back through time.